welcome to week 13. We're getting down there. After this week, we have 2 weeks left to go in the semester, and then we have final exam week. So, we're getting down there. Alright, so what we're going to be looking at today is arguing with purpose. Okay? Now, I do apologize. This is going to be a fairly short one because there's not a lot to this. Okay? But, we can try to get through what you need to know about this because it actually will affect your proposals. Okay, so let's talk about the purpose of an argument. Okay, now the argument essays you've written up to this point in the class are primarily arguments that exist for the reason of intellectual exercise. Classical argument rhetoric has its roots in the earliest forms of rhetoric pioneered by philosophers. Essentially, it was basically just, we're going to argue this for the purposes of intellectual growth. There's no real stakes involved. We just want to have a hypothetical argument here so that we have a baseline of what our society should be. So we're going to use our very best thinking skills, and we're going to debate each other, and we're going to use a lot of rhetoric, and we're going to show each other what the errors of each other's arguments are. Okay? Evaluations have a very focused, very limited purpose as only intended to express an opinion rather than urge action. Okay? So evaluation primarily is going to be this is why it's good, this is why it's bad, and it's not necessarily going to be what do you do about it. It may be implied what you should do about it, like if it's a film review and if you're reviewing a bad film, the evaluation is don't go see this and give these hacks money. Okay? But there's no real action that is emphasized. Okay? The purpose of it is very focused on just, I'm telling you why this is good or bad. Okay? The proposal essay, on the other hand, has a twofold purpose, and that it is being used to create a solution to a pressing problem and to convince the audience that it is correct. So, I know we talked about with the classical argument, the point of it is not necessarily to win. The point of a purpose is to win. So, the main purpose of a proposal is you're arguing to solve a problem. Okay? Now, typically, when you're arguing to solve a problem, both sides of an argument have a vested shared interest in the subject of the argument and the outcome of that dispute. There's going to be some kind of effect. Okay? The arguments on both sides in this case are intended to present competing solutions for resolving the dispute, solving the problem in their own ways. Okay? Pretty much the essence of a proposal argument. Okay? You're proposing a solution, and this is the way you want to solve this problem. Persuasive element then becomes convincing the audience affected by the dispute of which side has the best solution. Okay? You're looking into, this is why I'm right. This is why my solution works better. This is why I think this is a good idea. Okay? Now, the best solution, though, does not always equate to the right solution. Okay? It may not necessarily be that you have the most morally acceptable solution, but it may be the best one available. Okay? Keep that in mind. Also, keep in mind also that winning the argument does not always equate with action. Okay? If you win that argument, you're not necessarily going to actually do it. You may have public opinion on your side, but that doesn't guarantee that the people you were directly addressing are actually going to take action in the way that you propose. Okay? So, this is one of the most commonplace occasions for creating and putting forth an argument. The main reason why people put forth an argument in these cases is, I'm going to be affected by this. This is what's going to happen to me. Okay? It may not necessarily be what's going to happen to other people, but for sure it's going to affect me negatively. So here's what I want to do in order to make this better, make it more equitable, make it work for me better. Now, Yagelski in the textbook gives 3 concrete examples of topics which lead to arguments being presented as problems requiring a solution. Okay? So let's take a look at these situations. One of them, Members of a student organization decide whether to spend surplus funds on new equipment. Okay? Let's say they have a budget overrun and they have some surplus money. Okay, it's a budget surplus, and they need to decide what to do with that money. Okay, and you have competing arguments for that. One person maybe says we should put it in the scholarship fund. Okay, one person says maybe we should invest in some infrastructure items for the school. Okay, maybe new AV equipment, maybe repainting the halls or something. Third one says, hey, let's buy ourselves a margarita machine and have a day-long margarita party. Okay, so we have a bunch of different proposals there. You have some positives and negatives to each one. Okay, so the argument then becomes, which one do we use? So each side has to justify why they want the money used in that way. Second example, community residents debate whether to increase property taxes to build a new school building. Okay, this is a fun example because this is one I've actually lived through. Okay, I grew up in Michigan. Actually, not entirely grew up there. I actually lived there from the age of 13 forward. Okay, now until I moved away in 2004, I think it was. Yeah. All right. So in that time, I saw the way they funded their schools in my town. They do what's called a millage election. Okay, and what that means is they are going to pledge a certain percentage known as a mill from every dollar of property taxes collected to go toward the schools. Okay, typically the mill is like 1/100th of a cent. Okay, so if you have somebody who is paying maybe $8,000 in property taxes, the mill taken off them is probably going to be about 8 cents, or excuse me, 80 cents. Okay. Now, the thing is that this becomes hotly debated. Okay, because it will raise a lot of money. Okay, and for starters, the main reason why this gets debated is because the millage is usually an increase. So they're going to be raising taxes by that millage in order to raise the money. Okay? And there are instances of millages failing because you have an older community who has no interest in the schools and doesn't want to fund them. Because why should they? They're not getting any benefit out of it. Why should their money go to it? The first year I was in high school, I had a failed millage. Okay? Here's the kind of effects a failed millage has. That year there was no bus service at all in the district. Okay? Because the millage failed, the district was unable to afford running their buses. Okay? They ran a second millage election the following year after that one failed. After everybody had spent approximately 6 months with people having to ferry their kids to school themselves because they had no buses. Second time around, that millage soundly passed. Okay, we got our buses back. That millage was also, I think it was like 5 mills that they added to the property taxes because they were also funding renovations to the high school, which they did in my sophomore year, and by my junior year they were finished. Okay, but we're talking about lots and lots of money here. Okay, that second millage that passed wound up generating I want to say maybe somewhere from between $5 and $7 million. Okay, and that was used to fund the busing. That was used to fund extracurricular activities. I should also note that one of the consequences of that first millage failing was that all sports participation in the high school that year was pay to play. In order to join a team, you had to pay somewhere in the range of $80 to $300 per player in order to participate in that sport. And that's on top of the cost of equipment or whatever, because they needed that money, get this, to have buses for the sports teams. Okay? So, yeah, priorities, people. Yay. All right. so, uh, so yeah, this would cause a huge argument here. Okay? People would be arguing to solve this problem. All right? And there would be a side that says, no, I don't want to fund this. I'm not getting any benefits. I don't have any kids in the school. Why should I give a damn? Okay? That's kind of what it amounts to. So the third one, parents and school officials decide the best measures for increasing safety at their elementary school. Okay? This is one that might be controversial, and this would lead to several maybe definitely opposing and polar opposite reactions. Okay? I will say that I've seen ranging from making sure schools are no gun zones, okay, to the popular option that a lot of school districts around the country have taken, that is taking on an active police officer as a resource officer at the campus, at every campus, so that they have a constant police presence. Okay, there's a lot of debate that goes on about whether that does anything or not, especially in the wake of Parkland, where they had in the Parkland shooting, their police resource officer saw what was going on and ran across the street to save his own butt. Okay, so there's a lot of debate there. Okay, both sides of each of these arguments has a vested interest in its outcome, because they're directly affected by those outcomes. Okay, therefore, each side argues what they feel is the best possible solution, even if that solution is we're not doing anything. All right, so the other element to a proposal essay, the other purpose for a proposal essay, is arguing to prevail. Okay? This is probably the most concrete possible purpose for an argument. There are consequences from the outcome of the argument, so one side or the other must win. Okay? There must be a winner. Unfortunately, that also means there must be a loser. Okay? An argument to prevail is an argument that must take precedence and rise above any opposing arguments to win that argument. Commonly, these types of arguments are involved with high-stakes disputes where inaction is not an option and actions one way or another will greatly negatively affect whichever group comes up short. Okay? Arguments to prevail are, as it says, extremely high stakes. Okay? Sometimes they're a matter of life and death. Okay? I've seen examples of all of them. Okay, of life and death circumstances, of something as simple as if we don't make the right decision here, I'm not going to be able to get what I want for lunch. Okay, so there's all sorts of different stakes involved here. Okay, but the commonality is inaction is not an option, so we need to decide what to do. One side's, no matter what happens, one side's going to be affected positively and one side's going to be affected negatively. So you guys have to argue which one of you deserves it more. Okay? Arguments to prevail are usually involved in important and controversial subjects. There's three situations that Jagielski presents. Okay? One of those is students making a strong case against allowing a controversial anti-immigrant organization to demonstrate on campus. Okay, when I was a college student, I've actually seen this happen. Immediately after I got out of high school, I spent 4 years at Michigan State University, and I didn't get a degree, unfortunately, but I attended there, and I saw this firsthand. People were protesting because, and it's going to sound weird because it is Michigan. People on campus were protesting a Klan rally on the state capitol steps. Okay, the Klan was doing a demonstration, and it's like, why are we allowing this? Okay, that's somewhat similar to what they're talking about here, where you have to talk about trying to block a demonstration that maybe they're applying for their permits or something, and the students are saying, no, we're not going to allow this group on campus because they're completely opposed to what we stand for. Okay? So that would be one case where you want to have to win that, because both sides are going to be arguing, and whatever the loser is not going to get their way. So if the organization wins, they will get to have their demonstration and gleefully intimidate everybody on campus. If the students win, the organization is not going to be allowed to have their demonstration. Somebody's going to get mad, okay? And maybe they'll, I don't know, write a bad review of their school on Facebook or whatever, okay? Right, so that's one situation. Another one. Members of law enforcement organization argue against the state's adoption of stand your ground self-defense laws, which they believe lead to more gun violence. I'm not touching that one. All right, next one. A resident strenuously opposes a town bill restricting gas drilling on the grounds that will deprive residents of much-needed income. Yeah, so this is the age-old tug-of-war between the environment and the economy. Okay? So you have a lot of residents saying we don't want gas drilling because it's going to screw up our neighborhoods. It's going to cause pollution. It's going to lead to industrial problems. It's going to be dangerous. We don't want that in our community. Then you have other residents that are saying, no, wait a minute. You have to think about the financial implications here, because maybe we can get some money out of this. And okay, but the problem is who's going to come out ahead? All right. No matter what happens, there's going to be a winner. There's going to be a loser. Either you're going to have some gas drilling in the town, and it's going to be completely screwing up your environment. But you're going to make a lot of money. Or you won't have the gas drilling in your town. Your environment will be safer, but maybe you're not making as much as you would have with the gas drilling. Maybe that'll be the difference between certain civic projects going through and certain ones not. Okay? There would be consequences down the line, and ultimately winds up becoming like the butterfly effect. Okay? These situations are arguments where the arguer not only opposes a position, but must convince others to oppose it as well, so that it does not get enacted. These arguments come from extremely strong convictions. Okay? Now, something you have to keep in mind here. You do not want to let passion blind you to facts. Okay? You can feel strongly and passionately about your belief and about your side of the argument. Okay? However, if the facts don't add up to your passionate belief, then you're not going to have a foot to stand on. Okay? We're kind of seeing that right now as history is unfolding. As I speak here, we still have a number of lawsuits going on over the election. Okay? But a lot of them are getting thrown out, and the main reason is because, surprise, surprise, no evidence. Okay? The lawyers are not being able to present concrete evidence. In fact, at one point, they're trying to admit hearsay as evidence, and when the judge caught them on calling it hearsay, the lawyer was trying to say, this isn't hearsay. This is a first-hand account from someone who heard it from a first-hand account, which is the definition of hearsay. Okay? So, passion, yeah, they got passion in spades. Okay? What they don't have, though, is facts. Okay? The facts are not on their side, so they have no basis for their argument. Okay? Another thing, strong ethical practices need to be in place when writing an argument to prevail. You need to believe in what it is you are arguing, rather than simply argue for the purpose of winning. Okay? You don't want to spend your entire time just looking at, okay, I want to win. I'm going to stay on the winning side. That's why I'm going to stick with this argument. I want to be a winner. Okay? Just arguing for the sake of arguing is something that your crazy uncle, and in fact, I have an uncle that does this because he enjoys it. Okay? That is the actions of someone who has no conviction. Okay? If you truly have passion about the topic, if you truly have passion for the argument, and you have the facts to prove it, then you should not be arguing just for the sake of winning. You should be arguing to get your point across. You should be arguing to win that argument and get your action taken. Keep the ethics of your argument in mind as you craft your argument. There is one other element I want to talk about here, and that is the ethics of argument. Okay? There's a really good passage here that Yagelsky gives. I'm going to, since this is the end of the slideshow here, I'm going to wrap this up here with this passage from Yagelsky. It is about the ethics of argument. Okay? Because argument has the power to persuade others to adopt a belief or take an action, often on matters of great importance, writers have a responsibility to engage in argumentation in an honorable manner. An argument should always be informed by a desire to seek truth or find a course of action that is morally justifiable, not to achieve self-serving, questionable, or illicit ends. A famous example of argument used for immoral purposes is Adolf Hitler's argument that anti-Jewish legislation in Germany from the 1930s was necessary to protect Germany from communism and to protect Jews from further persecution. But argument can be used for dubious purposes in much less dramatic contexts. For example, you might argue in favor of a proposed change in your major because the change will make it easier for you to graduate early, even though you believe that the change will weaken the curriculum and is probably not a good idea for most students. In such a case, you would be making an argument of questionable ethical merit. To make an ethical argument in such circumstances, you would have to acknowledge your own self-interest. In short, effective argument can be turned to honorable or questionable purposes, even in school assignments. Always consider whether the argument you are making is not only sound, but also ethical. Okay, so we have some historical precedent there when he talks about the Nazi government. He talks about them talking about how the anti-Jew laws were necessary to here's the one that makes no sense. Prevent further Jewish persecution. You're kind of pushing to the extreme already. Okay, is that what you meant? But the protect Germany from communism thing, that was one that was kind of a nebulous goal at best. Okay, if you were going to protect us from communism, why does it involve basically purging an entire ethnic group from your population? That isn't historically communist and in fact has been persecuted by communists. So what's the point there? Okay. The other thing that he brings up, which is a huge important point here, is making an argument that benefits you but is to the detriment of others in the long run. Okay? One thing to keep in mind as you are arguing to prevail is if you win and your way goes through, it's going to affect people down the line. Keep that bigger picture in mind because you are going to be the spark that leads to a giant fire. And it's going to be, you're straddling the line of whether helping yourself is going to light a campfire or if helping yourself is going to set the entire West Coast on fire. Okay? So there's a fine line that you have to walk, and you have to consider what the future holds for others. Okay? What are people going to be doing after you succeed with your assignment? How is it going to affect, or rather, if you succeed with your argument, how is it going to affect others down the line? Okay? So that is the main thing you have to keep in mind with the ethics of this, and keep this also in mind as you're writing your proposals for this assignment. All right, so I did promise this would be a short one, and yeah, it certainly was a short one. All right, so here's the agenda for the next couple of weeks here. Okay, next week is the first workshop session on the proposal essays. Okay, you may also note that next week is also Thanksgiving week. Okay, we will have a lecture next week. It will probably be another short one like this one because I'm really running out of stuff to tell you guys that I haven't told you already. Okay. Here's the thing, though. We will not have a Collaborate session next week because the Collaborate session would have landed on Thanksgiving Day, and I'm not going to tear you guys away from your families just to jabber with me for an hour. Okay? So we will not have Collaborate sessions next week. Okay? The following week is the last week of the semester. It's week 15. It's going to be the proofreading and editing workshop for the proposals. There will be one more short lecture. There will also be a collaborate session that week. Okay, so and we'll basically just wrap things up. Okay. As far as due dates go, everything's going to be coming up due on the 4th of December. Okay, so that includes proposal essay. It's due on the 4th of December. Okay, mind tap locks on the 4th of December. Message boards lock on the 4th of December. Okay. The other thing you have to consider is if you want to resubmit any of the past, either the past essays, whether it's the classical argument or the evaluation, if you want to resubmit either one of them for an improved grade, you have until the 4th to get that in. Okay, I will not be accepting any redos of essays past the 4th. Okay. The week after that is going to be finals week. Okay, which we've already talked about, and you should have your proctors by now. They should have the instructions, and you should be ready to take that exam. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. So this week, continue working on the proposal essay. There will be another weekly discussion board topic. Make sure you post to that. My tab, continue working on that. Any prep you want to do for the final exam, now would be a good time to be doing that as well. Okay? With all that said, I will see you guys next week then. Thank you for watching.